Microphone test, 1, 2, 3. All right, it's 8 o'clock on my Swiss watch, and we are right on time. I think in the history of the opportunity meetups of the Swiss AmCham Southern California, this is the very first time that we are right on the point. So good morning, everyone, here at this wonderful location in La Jolla at HomeLabs of UC San Diego. We say hi Switzerland and hi rest of the world that join us online. So this is already the second opportunity meetup for Life Science and MedTech. And I'm really glad to be here in San Diego this morning, which is one of the most sought after hubs in the world when it comes to life science. And that's a big reason why we are here today. So the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce Southern California focuses on enabling Swiss and also American business and exchange and growth by facilitating dialogue together. Now, you might know Switzerland is known for what? Any idea?
Chocolate.
Yeah, this is the common kind of stereotype. Chocolate, watches, right? Mountains, maybe some cheese as well, right? But Switzerland is also one of the leading hubs for IP and innovation when it comes to MedTech, life science, and bioscience. And being the 6th or 7th largest foreign direct investor in the United States, Switzerland has a significant interest to build up the relationship, to build up the dialogue with the life science community in the US and specifically in Southern California and here in San Diego, because we want to bring the brightest and smartest, the most innovative together, that they can really drive innovation together and drive the exchange and dialogue together. So the Swiss AmCham, we have been put in place about 2 years ago. We restarted this chamber. Our strategy is new technologies. So next to life science, we also focus on clean tech. We focus on aerospace. We focus on food tech. So we really think that the correlation between Switzerland and Southern California in those new technologies is significant. And while everybody was always focusing on the East Coast and the Silicon Valley, the reason and the firepower of Southern California has unfortunately a little bit evaporated from the radar. And the ambition of the Swiss American Chamber here is to kind of reverse that and really bring SoCal back in the spotlight of Swiss innovation, of Swiss growth capital, and of Swiss IP to come here to build business and to grow the market together. Now, having said that, I'm very grateful to be a guest today here at HomeLab, and I want to give Julio, our host, and today a couple of words to say about his great business that you're running here. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to UC San Diego. We are the flagship accelerator here on campus. HomeLab, we're entering our 4th year of operation. And welcome to San Diego. We are not known for the milk chocolate. I think we are known for certainly thematically the underestimated founder. So here at UC San Diego, the last 4 years at HomeLab, we've had over $1 billion in exits and fundraisings by 38 companies across a diversity of different technologies. Certainly the traditional therapeutics, but we also have amazing plays in AI and biotech, in tools and diagnostics, and in sustainability, especially in the biomaterials space. So I welcome you guys, and I look forward to having a fantastic event. Thank you.
Thanks, Julio. I'm Rich Henson, Welcome here, and thank you, Julio, for hosting this meeting here today. It's a great venue. The chamber, my job is to work with the chamber and develop the life science and biotech relationships that we have here. We have relationship in academia, we have product development, manufacturing, so there's multiple levels of involvement in biotech and life sciences here in San Diego. So my job is to foster those relationships and try to encourage all the communication that it takes to develop a business here. Switzerland, as Matthias was saying, is home to an amazing amount of life science and biotech technology, as well as sources of investment capital who are looking for opportunities here in San Diego to help grow and invest and develop those businesses. So I welcome everybody here. Thank you for this great turnout. And I turn it over to here, John Jenny.
Great, thank you, Rich, and thank you, everybody. I'm John Jenny. I'm a member of the board of directors of the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also a senior director at RSM. And RSM is sponsoring this event together with HomeLabs at UCSD. RSM is one of the largest professional services firms in the world. We're a global firm, and we focus on the middle market, and life science is one of our key industries. That's why we wanted to sponsor this event and why we are involved with the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce, because that middle market kind of upcoming life sciences is really our sweet spot. We offer tax, consulting, and advisory services. Basically, we want to be business advisors, strategic advisors to this industry. And so we're very excited to be here today offering support for this activity. So our format today is as follows. We're going to, first of all, introduce what we call our Fab Four. We have four up-and-coming, I have to turn that off. My apologies, four up-and-coming life sciences companies that we want to hear from today. Two here in San Diego in the U.S., two phoning in from Switzerland via video, bringing together the Swiss-American concept that, working together to move forward together. So we will have four pitches, two U.S., two Swiss. Each pitch is 5 minutes, and then we'll have 5 minutes for question and answers. And then we will transition to a panel discussion using the chairs behind me, where we will speak with some industry leaders about where we're going in the life sciences space. So we're very excited with this to introduce this concept. We think it'll be very informative. And with that, I think we should move to our first speaker, which would be Phil Norris from MachineMD, who is joining us by video from Switzerland. So I'll hand it off to Phil.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Someone in the room say yes, just that I know the microphone is working.
Yes.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind introduction. I was actually in California last week, and I'm now back in Switzerland, a little bit jet lagged, and happy to be joining you virtually this morning. So my name is Phil Norris, and I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at MachineMD. We're a medical device company working at the intersection of neurology and ophthalmology. And in this short time, I'd like to tell you about three topics. So the first is neuroscience, and particularly the link between the eyes and the brain. The second is what MachineMD, as a startup, is doing to quantify eye examinations and improve the measurement of brain function. And the third is to look at the future and what more can be done in brain health diagnosis and monitoring. So first of all, I'd like you to think of a friend or a family member that you have who is living with a neurological disorder. It could be any, it could be multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, brain tumors, strokes. And if you think about their journey living with that disease, then you'll probably know that they periodically go for an MRI or a CT scan looking for lesions or the absence of lesions, and that's structural imaging of the brain. And complementing that, there's also some functional testing to see how people walk or how they write, their fine motor control, how they speak. And the amazing fact is that there's actually decades of peer-reviewed publications that show the link between these disorders of those people that you were picturing then and their vision, particularly including eye movements and pupillometry. But there's a challenge in this. So this is the need that we're addressing, is that the gold standard test for eye movements, you've all done it. The doctor puts their finger out and they say, follow my finger side to side. Or they get a flashlight and they shine it in your pupil, looking for pupillary constriction and then dilation afterwards. And so these, of course, are manual, they're subjective, and of course, they're very error prone. So there was a paper published in the US a couple of years ago that showed that non-experts performing those tests had a 50% error rate as they were referring patients on. And that often caused patient harm as well, going the wrong way through the therapeutic pathway. So in a world where we talk about evidence-based, data-driven, AI-powered healthcare, there's a gap between those manual exams of today and the accurate evidence-based diagnosis and monitoring of these brain diseases, which are, of course, the leading cause of disability-adjusted life years, neurological disorders, the second leading cause of death globally. So MachineMD is a Swiss startup founded by a neuro-ophthalmologist, Professor Matthias Abeck. And a neuro-ophthalmologist is an ophthalmologist that did his specialism in neurology afterwards. Some do it the other way around. But he saw an opportunity to democratize that skill set he had as a tertiary care specialist into those that are presented with patients all the time that have blurry vision or double vision, classic presentations that could indicate a neurological disorder. So as a company, MachineMD is on a mission to radically improve the measurement of brain function. And our first product that we're launching right now, that's why I was in San Francisco last week, is designed to automate and quantify these eye exams that we're familiar with today. And this is a relatively simple automation. We use a VR headset. I can actually just show you behind me, just like this. So a VR headset that a patient puts on and is shown some relatively simple visual stimuli. These visual stimuli you can think of just like the finger moving across is a point moving in front of each eye. So very simple in the construct. And that enables the systematic, replicable, quantifiable examination of eye movements, because within the VR headset, we're using infrared eye tracking to monitor what the eyes are doing. What we're giving back to a doctor is a report with some charts that quantify these eye movements. So that's a big step forward, just the automation and quantification of a task using a non-invasive device. And it's even simple enough that it can be delegated away so that a technical assistant in a medical practice can perform the exam rather than it taking up a doctor's time. So that's what we're launching today. I said that's why I was in San Francisco. We're a team of about 20 people based in Bern with a subsidiary in Boston. And of course, Bern has a long history in ophthalmology. 100 years ago, there was Hans Goldmann making the first perimeter in Bern. And so across the country, there's a lot of expertise in ophthalmology, also in neuroscience, that we're very glad to bring to market using our device. And so with that device, we're already getting our first customers, and a few of them give a view to the future of MachineMD and what's possible through further research and collaborations. So, for example, in Germany, there's a neurologist who's specialized in multiple sclerosis, and she's starting to use this device for monitoring people living with multiple sclerosis. And that has a huge potential for influencing the decision-making and the therapeutic interventions for which medicines these people are given. And so that's a bit the vision behind our Series A financing that's coming up at the start of next year. The vision for a world where people that are living with neurological disorders that can be accurately diagnosed and monitored. And we're sure that our technology and partnerships have a place to play in that. Thank you so much. I know I'm at time, so I open the floor for questions.
Can I take any questions that people might have for MachineMD? Any questions from the audience? Any questions online? Okay. Thank you, Phil, very much. We really appreciate your presentation, your participation. With that, I'd like to now pass it off to a U.S. Life sciences company. So let me welcome Michelin Andrews. Thank you, Michelin.
So much, John. Hi. Thank you so much for having us here. My name is Michelin Andrews. I'm CEO and co-founder of Providence Bio. We are an alternative proteins company making the most abundant protein in the animal kingdom, collagen, with no animals, no animal inputs, and we are making it in a system which is not only sustainable, but also scalable. And so, what I really like to start out with is the discussion of a bottleneck that we've had in industrial biotech for the last few decades when it comes to protein production. And essentially, we've been able to manufacture high-value, complex proteins in systems such as mammalian cells, but with restrictions around the scale that we can produce these very, very high-value products. So we can get high-value, complex proteins at low scales. Alternatively, we have been able to, for decades, make low-value, not complex proteins in systems like bacteria or yeast, which are highly scalable. So you can, manufacture these proteins at reasonable price points. What we do at Providence is a next step in the evolution of fermentation technology. And so what we've done is we've developed a proprietary system where we can harness organisms like yeast or any yeast-like organism and actually get what's called post-translational modifications. So these are the bells and whistles that make complex proteins functional and valuable. And so in these systems, we're able to make products which would otherwise be $100 million a kilo, but for the first time in yeast systems which can scale up to 600,000 liter bioreactor tanks. And so the markets that this represents that we can move into with the first products, which we've now validated at lab scale, not only include some of the most valuable protein supply chains, but also some of the largest, totaling over $100 billion a year in annual revenue for these different markets and categories. So ranging from food, pharma, biomaterials, beauty and therapeutics. A few recent updates, which we're excited to share. We're going to be making an announcement very soon regarding the efficacy of our proteins for fields such as cell therapy and supporting the general cultivated cell space. So think cultivated meat, think GMP proteins for cell culture. So that's very exciting. In addition, we are now revenue generating. We've been partnering with large pharmaceutical partners so that we can disrupt some really exciting protein supply chains. And I think I'll open it up to questions with that. Yeah. Julio.
Very amazing. I love seeing things that are in billion-dollar markets with the unit economics of brewing beer. That's always a nice thing. Question on unit economics. Can you give an example what that looks like in a market? And just out of curiosity for myself and those I'm sure in the audience, are you raising?
We are raising. So I guess I'll start though with unit economics. And so it's very interesting. So, with the products that we make right now, we make gelatin, we make collagen. And so, the products that we make range from these very high value extracellular matrix proteins. So think proteins in the lab that are used all over the world every day, right, for cell culture and experiments. Now, these proteins go for, if they're recombinant like ours are, tens of millions of dollars and more a kilo. So we're really able to price this, very competitively. And so this is part of our ongoing exploration for some of these new categories. When it comes to the larger supply chains in the commodity space, our target is to get to in manufacturing about $8 US a kilo. So that's pretty dramatic. But what's great is, the sort of systems that we use, there's no animal inputs, as I mentioned. So we're talking about feedstocks like sugar, right? Sugar or other carbon feedstock sources. And so it really is a feasible reality in the next few years to be able to achieve these really ambitious price points. We are raising. We will be opening up our Series A beginning of next year. And we're looking forward to it.
I have a question. What is a primary commercial market that you're targeting where you feel you will be the most disruptive? Mm-hmm. And what's, in other words, when you go to that Series A, why are they going to be so anxious to write you a big check to invest?
Yeah.
What do they see?
So, and I think one of the things that's always been a very unique challenge for us is that as a platform company, right, collagen goes into so many different fields. And so our strategy is really, let's start with the very high value, low volume products, which we can already massively disrupt when it comes to not only price point, but again, we haven't had GMP scalable products for these markets in life sciences. So when we think about even cell therapies, right, and the need for these extracellular matrix proteins, to deliver these next generation therapeutics, we can be a first there. So that's hugely disruptive without us needing to scale, to very large bioreactors. So we essentially have a trajectory. So we have multiple different product categories along a pipeline, starting with the high value, low volume, and then moving our way up. So our first category will be in really the proteins for research and development. Following that, we are actively partnering for beauty and personal care. And you'll see, some of the other partnerships which are coming up on our pipeline all the way out to commodity gelatin and food. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelin. It was great. So now we're going to go back across the ocean via the miracle of technology and welcome our next speaker, George Papagiannakis, who is with Orama VR. So I'm going to pass it off to George. Thanks.
Great. Many thanks, John. Many thanks, Matt, for the kind invitation. My name is Dr. George Papagiannakis. I'm co-founder and CEO of Orama VR. Orama VR is a Swiss deep tech company that seeks to transform the landscape of global healthcare. Our mission to accelerate world's transition to medical exam training is destined to leverage technology to break barriers and enrich lives. Orama VR is tackling a crucial social challenge, which is being faced now by 5 billion people worldwide: the lack of accessibility to affordable surgical anesthesia care. This issue primarily stems from an outdated medical training system that has stagnated for the past 150 years. But like pioneering tech companies, we see not just the problems, but opportunities for revolutionary solutions. Our response? Harnessing the transformative power of extended reality to reshape medical training. With our innovative low-code and soon no-code generative AI platform, Orama VR is democratizing the creation of high-fidelity medical exam simulations, making them more accessible and cost-effective than ever before. The influence of our award-winning platform is already evident with adoption by leading institutions such as USC Keck School of Medicine, NYU Langone Medical School, the University Hospital of Geneva and Bern, among others. Testament to our remarkable vision and execution, we have garnered international recognition and built partnerships with significant industry leaders. Orama VR currently serves 20 plus major B2B clients worldwide in 10 countries with a strong pipeline, team of 40 people, won several major industry awards, and attracted significant deep tech R&D projects. The Orama VR business plan has received the Seal of Excellence from the European Innovation Council and the Inno-Swiss Accelerator Program, being selected amongst the top 50 Swiss deep tech startups out of 750 in 2023. There's a short video to see, if you can click on it, because an image is 1,000 words. So in a way to convey to you a bit the power of VR. So if you can please click on the next slide. Nope, the previous one has a video. So if you can please click inside, and you can remove my window because I can see myself as well. So until the video plays, in Orama VR, we are committed to push the boundaries of what is possible and to dare to think differently and to use XR technology as a canvas for realizing our audacious goals. The Orama VR team is reimagining the future of medical training and opening new horizons for global healthcare and applications of spatial computing in education and training. Thank you very much. I will be very happy to answer any questions. If the video plays out, you will have a chance to see a little bit part of the system.
Okay, thank you, George. Do you have any questions for George about Orama VR from the studio audience or online? No questions? Okay. So now we have a little change of program. Unfortunately, one of our presenters is stuck in traffic. I think some of you know about the mess that we have on Interstate 5 here in Southern California. But we have a pinch hitter who has agreed to step forward. Jay-Z from Team Therapeutics, please. Thank you.
Thank you for this great opportunity for me just to step in. My name is Jay Genzor. People call me Jay-Z. I can show you I have nothing to do with Beyonce's children. Okay. So our company is called Team Therapeutics. We focus primarily on the hearing loss, developing drugs, repurposing drugs. And hearing loss is a huge market that is unmet. It affects more than 10% of the general population. And it's bigger than the combination of both blindness and Alzheimer's in combined. Therefore, it's very important for us to develop drugs. However, there is no FDA-approved drugs at this moment. Therefore, we want to develop various drugs by screening and by characterizations. We have identified a list of a large significant number of drugs. And they are all FDA, many of them are FDA approved, and many of them are in clinical trials. So we want to repurpose them for some specific hearing loss as a lowest hanging fruit. For example, we targeted on the cisplatin-induced hearing loss. In this particular population, it's very easy to tackle the hearing loss and to get some feedback, get some positive results. Specifically, we're targeting on the testicular tumor patients who are very unique. They are very homogeneous, affecting males and at 33 years of age. And they have 95% of survival rate. So they are very eager to be treated for our drugs, for doing their chemotherapeutic treatment. So we have raised about $5 million so far from money from grants, NIH grants and DoD grants that are non-dilutive. We have assembled a significant number of scientific advisors and business advisors. So in the past 5 years. So now we are seeking seed money to about $5 million to carry out a specific phase 1-2 combined clinical trials so that we can get positive results, and then we can attract more investments as well as to apply our drugs to bigger clinical populations, including noise-induced hearing loss as well as age-related hearing loss. So I want to invite investments to Ting and to Jay-Z. So 99 problems and hearing loss on one. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jay-Z, for stepping in on a pinch-hitting basis. Any questions for Jay-Z? Yeah, Julio?
First, just amazing job, pinch hitting. Fantastic pitch. You clearly understood the market and the problem you're trying to solve. Question for you is around building your team. What stage are you at? You mentioned fundraising. Can you give us a little bit more about you and about the team you're building around this?
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I have been in the academic field for over 25 years. I was a full-time professor and chair of a department, and I recently decided, half a year ago, I decided to focus exclusively on our company. which I think deserves full attention, and I learned tremendously about how the entrepreneurship is going. And we have obtained 5 SBIR phase 1, phase 2 grants, including 2 phase 2 grants, as well as the DoD grant. So we are trying to assemble a team of scientists as well as business development personnel, so we can really move our company towards a next phase. And our vision is, of course, to complete the phase 1 and 2 combined trials. And in the future, we would like to, either continue our phase 3, or we can exit and have collaborations and with other big pharmas. We already have some big pharmas that express interest, for example, Boehringer Ingelheim and Novartis and so on. So we are trying to move that in that direction as well. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Any further questions?
I got a question online.
Okay.
For Orama. Yeah, one of our online viewers has a question for George for Orama VR. Has your technology haptic feedback?
That's a great question. Everyone who tests and gets excited about tech then asks the second thing about haptics. The short answer is that we are a software company, and we're accelerating world's transition to medical XR, creating the next generation of software. We support all kinds of VR hardware out there, including all kinds of glasses, as well as all kinds of haptic devices out there. It's just that the haptic devices, they haven't caught up yet with the fidelity of the visual displays. So we're still waiting to see what is the next generation of haptic devices coming out that will really revolutionize the space. So yes, we support everything out there. We are not particularly excited by the current status of the field.
Okay, thank you, George. Thank you for that. Any final questions for any of our Fab 4 pitch companies? Okay. Well, with that, I'd like to thank all 4 companies for pitching. Really appreciate your contribution. Thank you for stepping in. And with that, we'll move to the next phase of our event, which is the panel discussion. So I'd like to invite the panelists to come up, and Julio, please come up and reintroduce yourself and introduce our panelists. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, John. Okay, welcome. Thanks again, viewers at home and everyone who showed up today in sunny San Diego and braved the rain and traffic here. Again, I'm Julio De Unamuno. I am the Senior Executive Director of the C&T Accelerator HomeLab here. We are, again, joined by our panelists. I'll let each of them introduce themselves, 1 to 2 minutes each. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, and your company, and pass the mic along. All right, we'll start off with Edward here, closest to me.
This on? Can you guys hear me? I think I turned it on. Is it working? Yeah, we're good.
Let's look at the AV.
Hi,
Good.
I'm Edward Robles. I'm a tax partner with RSM here in San Diego. I have about 24 years of experience. I started my career at Arthur Andersen in the Bay Area. Before that went under with the whole Enron thing. So I focus on life science companies. I actually help lead RSM in their MedTech sector, focus on tax. So, what our firm does, I think Jenny did a good job introducing our firm, but what we do is we make sure that our professionals are aligned by industry, right? So I'm life science focused and technology focused, right? Because we can't be experts in everything, right? Accounting and tax and everything is difficult. So, the firm does, like I said, does a good job of making sure, hey, we're industry focused, so we know the issues that face life science companies, not only from an accounting perspective, but consulting and from tax. So that's a little bit about me. Thank you for having me, though. I appreciate you having us and having us ability to sponsor this event.
Thank you, Ed.
I'm Micklin Andrews. Nice to talk with you again. So my background is in entrepreneurship and innovation for about the last 20 years, spanning multiple spaces. But how I actually ended up in this industry is not a very traditional path at all. I was an entrepreneur and a fashion designer around 20 years ago, innovating materials, and had the idea that I wanted to make leather in the laboratory with stem cell technologies, which were super nascent at the time. Led me on a path of exploration years later with academic labs all over the US, and then later partnered with my co-founders who have labs at UC Berkeley and UCSF. And so, you know, in addition to my role at Providence, I'm also an innovator in the space of autonomous vehicle road infrastructure. What I find is I just love working with incredible teams and building enabling technology with these teams so that we can see, you know, the next big transitions in these spaces. Providence, of course, is my main work, though. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is this working? I think it is. I'm Jack Doty. I'm with Innocom BioEquities, Inc. We're out of San Francisco, although we very much support the University of California system, especially in San Diego. I'm a member of the Life Science Association. I know that was important to you. I put that in for you. The California Life Science Association has a major office here as well as one in South San Francisco, the two hubs on the west coast of life science. Innocom BioEquities is a venture capitalist. We're in the middle right now of raising $250 million, hopefully maybe $400 million, to support life science, I would say phase 2 companies moving into the point when they get to FDA, past post-clinical and into phase 1, phase 2. We have 13 portfolio companies, and we provide, that would be better. You see if I can work this one. Yeah, there we go. Cough before the microphone, okay. So we provide 3 services to our 13 portfolio companies where we are now. They are, first of all, our CEO advisory. Most of the CEOs we know are really, really heavy in science, and when you get into the business aspect of it, maybe they need a little experience on that side. We provide that. Number 2 is to establish the infrastructure, which is why we work closely as very proud clients of RSM to bring in the accounting systems and the broader ones, which pick up IT, pick up HR, facilities, those sorts of things, which rest over in the business side of things. So of those 3, the third one, because those 2 cost money, is we hope to help our portfolio companies with the phase A financing, starting with $5 million and then letting it round out when they get through phase 2 FDA approvals at some $25 to $40 million. So that's our model. It's a unique one because where we are sitting is in a place that is ill-funded generally, between the wonderful grants that come in non-dilutive all the way up to the point where they can get into phase 1, but then they don't have the money to take it through. And we're working, as we see here, with blockbuster solutions. My personal background was start off frankly, with IBM, and then moved over to real estate development, and then because of a crash, much like the one we just went through with COVID, moved over to food. And one day I woke up and said, what are the benefits of making a really great chocolate when we have Swiss chocolate that constantly works against us? And so we were here in Oakland with a nice chocolate factory and went through that and moved on back into something important of this industry. And so I am life science all the way and have been now for some number of years dedicated to it. Thank you.
$200 million, over $200 million. That's an amazing fund to have to put to the good work of investing in this next generation of startups. Wish you luck on that, Jack.
Thank you very much, Julio. And we're relatively small when I was back at National Venture Capital Association. There's a lot of money out there. Yeah.
I can only imagine the ladder to climb for that one. Great job. LPs, I'm sure, are excited about it.
Thank you.
All right, and we've got one more panelist here. George, are you on?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Dr. Joseph Bazianakis. I'm from Murama VR, co-founder and CEO. You heard me just before. Just a brief overview of my background. I'm a computer scientist working for the last 24 years in the field of VR, AR, and XR. and the full stack from graphic systems to virtual human simulation algorithms, all the way to geometric models.
All right. Thank you, George. Okay, so here at HomeLab, we have an ethos here that the best team wins and the most diverse team is the best team. And so what better way to kick it off than a conversation about the trends and insights of the biotech industry with our friends all the way across the globe, from Switzerland to here in sunny San Diego. So with that said, I would love to kick off the discussion of an overall investment outlook. So 2023 Biotech Investment Report stated that over $3 billion were invested in startups in Switzerland. Jack, Edward, love to get your ideas on how these figures shape the investment landscape, on how you guys invest in Switzerland and abroad versus the U.S.
I'm not an authority on the investment working with Switzerland. I've been to several of the events in the Bay Area, also sponsored by the Swiss Chamber, and found them very good. We're mostly looking for inbound, keeping in mind we are not investing back into the Swiss folks. So I'm not sure I'm a good authority on that. I would say at this point it's a great time to invest in life science. And by the way, life science is, in all the reports, the one area where there is money available. So we're pleased to say that, and I think that the Swiss companies could look forward to that.
Yeah, so maybe we can broaden up the question a little bit more. So Jason Calacanis, the famous super angel out in the Bay Area, said that this is the best market he's seen in over 2 decades. He actually expects to deploy $1 million a month over the next 12 months, angel investing in the new technologies emerging. One of the main motivators for him has been the lowering in valuations of companies. Companies have become more efficient, or we'll call it a lower cost barrier to those investments. From your guys' perspectives, what are you guys seeing in the market in terms of the companies out there and investing in them and their ability to fundraise in such a challenging market?
That's a good question. Sorry, I wasn't prepared to answer that question. For the firm, what we do is we have eminence that go out and analyze all of these economic headwinds for some of these life science companies and investing in the companies. And recently what they've come out with, what they've shown is there's a lot of dry powder out there, a lot of money out there ready to be invested, kind of like what you said. So it's a great time to invest given that the valuations, I think some of these companies are waiting for valuations to come down. So there is, like Jack said, I think this is a good time to invest. I think there's a lot of companies still waiting on the sidelines to invest, right? A lot of these large pharmaceutical companies, VC companies are waiting on the sidelines, and I think they're just waiting for some of these economic headwinds to calm down before they start investing. But going back to what Jack said and repeating what I just said, is that I think it's a good time to start investing in startups, and I think there's a lot of opportunity out there.
That's what I was looking for. Very optimistic view of the market from the investor side and those involved in, I'm sure, working with these startups and looking at, the runway, right? Managing runway and being efficient is a very important thing. So I'd love to get the founder's perspective on this. So George Micklin, I've got a stat here that 2023 shows a 20% decrease in biotech funding since last year. So what are the strategies you would recommend startups trying to raise in this difficult environment?
Well, certainly for us, when we saw the tides turning in the investment arena, we immediately widened our focus and started to engage more deeply with strategic partners, pharma companies, multinationals. And so we've just been very, very focused on revenue generation, because ultimately that's really what's going to help get the larger investment, as well as stabilize us, as we move forward with the products that we're scaling up now. So I would say, I think there's definitely a necessary correction happening. We've seen this definitely in our space, wild valuations with not a lot of technology to necessarily always back up these very wild valuations. And so I think, there's some usefulness to it, being able to make partnerships, move towards revenue, demonstrate real proof of concept and products. Yep.
All right. I'll dig into that in a bit, but first let me let George share his input.
I echo also everything that Miklen said. I would just add two more points. It's a great opportunity to pivot to more sustainable business models. In our case, we pivoted from software as a service to a SaaS model, and we have seen this being really crucial. And the second is to take advantage of all the R&D and grant opportunities out there to support the next S jump on the product side. For example, in Switzerland, there is the Inno-Swiss Accelerator Program, selecting specifically deep tech startups and helping them to cross these difficult times.
Okay. Now, I'm just curious. This is a question I've been hearing a lot of companies talk about these days for the efficiency side, and that is, are you guys using AI inside of your business to capture any of these efficiencies?
Totally an unfair question. Totally unfair.
There's definitely been a lot of investment in the space of machine learning with bio as well, and I think there's definitely a place for it. For us, though, we're very focused on our manufacturing platform, a technology platform that really is at the level of the cell. That being said, I think there are a lot of opportunities, and we will be integrating some machine learning, certainly when it comes to high throughput screening. So these will be things that we'll be doing certainly within the next year and a half, 2 years. Now, I have been hearing some interesting things going on in kind of the chat GPT arena and how some bio companies are integrating this. We're not there yet, but we're on the lookout to figure out how to take advantage of all of the innovation that's rapidly happening around us right now. Yeah.
Okay, true craft research still going on there. Thank you, Miklen. George, Jack, you've got a comment?
Thank you. I'd just like to make a quick comment that starting out with IBM some many more years than I'm going to admit ago. And what you really have in heavy-duty computer work is artificial intelligence. And at those days, it was referred to as the mechanical brain. And we're seeing that happen now. What's going on is the aggrandizement of that. That's good. The problem with that is that it's getting stretched further and further from valuable reality. And that bothers me. It works very nicely in the research, and and the many different iterations that those of you who are scientists must go through can be very much enhanced by what is called artificial intelligence these days. I prefer to call it the mechanical brain.
Mechanical brain, I like it. Thanks for sharing that, Jack. George, so do you. I know you mentioned that you employ AI inside of your product. Curious if you employ it inside of your company.
I mean, out of our academic research and curiosity, we're trying to find the limits of where this tech is going to get us. I mean, very recently there were papers giving some results of data to a large language model. And the large language model, because it compresses everything to a latent space, it uncovers the rules that created these results. So we are very much interested to see where this is taking us. Of course, we are not underestimating the costs of training these systems as well as using them for inference. And I think many companies are getting excited nowadays, but underestimating these costs. So yes, we're keeping a very keen interest on the field, but being grounded on science and science-based tools.
All right, thank you, George, and thanks for entertaining my obligatory AI question. I think every panel in 2023 has got to have that.
You're welcome, Julio.
Thanks, thank you, Jack. So shifting gears slightly here, we've got a report here. The Venture Capital Benchmark Survey in 2023 said that 70% of startups fail because they are trying to achieve unrealistic benchmarks. And so I'm curious from you, Jack, when you work with your portfolio companies, how do you establish benchmarks, and what kind of benchmarks do you establish? And then my follow-up question will be for Miklen on how you may be working to align with some of the benchmarks that Jack is using.
The issue with benchmarks is to make sure that the science and the finance work together. Everyone's nodding their head so enthusiastically, and everyone knows that. How is that done? The most important thing is the input must come from both sides. We consider ourselves the business side of our portfolio companies, and we've been accepted warmly to that role. They're scientists. They're great scientists. And in each case, then, they want to pursue that. The way it's done is by listening. When do you think you're able to go to the next step with FDA? When do you need, what cost is that going to be? What do you need from us in terms of capital to support that? Please don't underestimate it. Please tell us realistically. And then at that point, we will be able to identify the capital and when it's needed. Then we work out, of course, a Gantt chart that says at this point, this point, this point, this point, this is what it is. You will not be able to go forward to the next step, according to our program, until you have successfully met that benchmark or revised it.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, I imagine one of the challenges, one of the comments you probably get from a lot of portfolio companies before those metrics are there, and when they're established and you're trying to measure them, but it's science, right?
Yeah, and you're a business guy and you don't understand. You're a scientist and you don't understand, is the reply to that, of course.
Thank you, Jack.
And actually, I say that in humor, and I heard a couple chuckles from the audience. Actually, that's not what happens. Is there going to be enough money for us to get through it? It's constantly a battle, and they understand it. You scientists do know that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we had Jay-Z on early. 99 problems, hearing losses at one. Sometimes some would say money is one. So, Micklin, how do you think about the capital efficiency of your company and some of the metrics balancing the science and business management side of the team?
Yeah. And I think this comes back to something which I shared earlier. Our strategy is really a pipeline, both with innovation, the products that we currently make, and the innovation trajectory that we're going on, which right now we're really just focused on the products we've already made, scaling them up, and getting them in the market in the spaces where we have the lowest regulatory hurdles. And so I think the difference between a company like ours and some of the companies that you're investing in is that we are not going through clinical trials, right? We are a B2B company delivering protein, just manufactured in a different, more stable, more sustainable way. So for us, our whole guiding post right now is just what is the quickest avenue to disrupting these first supply chains and getting these products in the market. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Edward. I'd imagine someone who sees this dynamic between the founders and funders.
Like I said earlier, I'm a tax guy, right? And a lot of times we have a lot of these startup companies that are burning through cash and don't ever focus on taxes. Because they're like, I'm in a loss position. Why do I have to worry about taxes? My cousin, he does our tax return, no problems, right? We don't have to pay him much. But what the government does is, especially from the R&D side, is when you're starting up, you don't have any revenue. They actually give you the opportunity to monetize the R&D credit up to $500,000 against payroll taxes. So that's above the line cash in your pocket, right? So we constantly try to tell some of our startup companies is, hey, I know cash is king. Why don't we take advantage of some of these credits and incentives that the government is providing to you? I know you're in a loss, but there's other ways to look at your cash, at your taxes, right? Not just on I'm not paying income tax perspective, right? The Inflation Reduction Act has some incentives and credits for energy efficiencies and stuff like that. So just because you're not in an income position doesn't mean that we can't take advantage of the tax code to help with cash flows, and to help fund some of your engineering, your sciences, or whatever you're doing. So just don't let taxes fall by the wayside just because you're not making, taxable income, should I say.
All right. Well, let's include George in the conversation here, our virtual comrade here on the panel. Question for you related to this. You are building not a biotechnology, but you are building a product here. How do you work with your team to decide product development, right? Every customer has desired new feature requests. How do you balance that? How do you keep your product from getting scope creep, but still trying to provide the core value to your customers so you can provide a revenue stream from them?
That's a great question. We have a mixed blessing in our case. We are not in a strong market, a market that is projected to become a 40 billion market by 2030, but currently is not a strong market. So the only way for us to really keep in line with what our customers want is through educating them and us as well through validation. Proof of concepts, clinical trials, that's the only thing that the medical space accepts in the end, because otherwise everything else is marketing. So we are driving key partnerships with key opinion leaders around the world, medical schools, hospitals, medical device companies, surgical training centers, to push forward the limits of what the XR science can do to help them accelerate medical training. So never first time with a patient. That's what we have seen, that it's a kind of a good opportunity and a good headway to drive these partnerships and also make them understand about the limits of the technology. Someone asked before, what about haptics? What about the feeling of presence being there? Some of them expecting to see matrix-like quality capabilities. So being grounded on science and science-based tools has helped us navigate these waters.
Okay, thank you, George. And I'll chime in from the HomeLab side here. One of the things that we work with a lot of our early stage founders on is just understanding that you have limited capital and you can't build all of these programs, right? I often see pitch decks where a pre-seed company has 5 different assets in a pipeline. And I kind of scratch my head when I start to look at the different modalities or indications that they're serving. And I scratch my head because I asked the entrepreneur, the number one question is, who's going to acquire your company, right? You have to think about what's the pipeline that the company could potentially acquire you for. And they're not going to value you based off of your pipeline of 5 programs. They're going to value off of the asset that makes the most sense for them. And so we try and teach them to be savvy with when they build out their programs and make sure that they're not doing all these different programs and they run out before they can get to their data, the animal data, right, and be able to get maybe an NDA or an IND, excuse me. And so capital efficiency, thinking about and working backwards, the economics, right, the health economics, great exercise for a lot of our companies is to really think about who's going to acquire you and work backwards, right? And that's probably the best way to start. That way you don't become the smallest company, the smallest conglomerate company that has no money, because that's a quick way to become one of those 70% that fail by setting unrealistic goals for the company. Okay, so switching over to the next question here, and this is kind of getting into the timing for financial leadership. So I'm looking at you, Ed. Here, a study from Startup Financial Management reveals that early financial leadership companies with early financial leadership have a 30% higher success rate than founders than startups that don't.
Absolutely. So absolutely, that is a great point. So I've been working with startups my whole career, and we have founders and entrepreneurs coming up with ideas of their next idea, their next product, and they start running with it, right, without thinking about, okay, what's my future look like? So what I always say is, hire a good controller, a good CFO from early stage cycles of the company, right? To build a foundation to run your business. Because a lot of times, like I said, the founders are not thinking about, running the business every day, right? The operations, the HR, right? The hey, I'm going to issue stock options to my employees. What does that look like, right? Or what IT system should I be on, right? What about my accounting? Because when you talk about exit strategy, hey, one day you might need an audit to exit, right? Somebody's going to want to say, hey, let me look at your financial statements. And the best way to get your financial statements in your house in order is to get a good foundation with your CFO, your controllers, your accounting managers, right? Even your tax preparers, right? So get your financial statements in line in order from day one. It's always harder to correct them later on, years down the road, than getting them right now, right? I think some people are saying, well, I don't want the expenditures of hiring somebody. Well, go get an interim CFO. Go get somebody that can lead you in the right direction. So 10 years or 5 years down the road, when you're looking to get financing or an exit, you don't, your financial statements are in good shape, right? Your company is in good shape. I know the product ultimately is going to be the selling factor, but companies are going to want to see your financial statements, quality of earnings, if there is earnings, right? So just make sure from day one you start thinking about, how am I going to run this company, not only from a products perspective, from an internal perspective, from ITs, from HR, from financial statements and that kind of thing. So I think it's key from the early life cycles of companies to set that foundation.
Yeah, I'd love to get your comments on that, Jack.
You'll notice that the three legs of our stool included infrastructure development and maintenance. And Edward and I sitting over there, we're talking about the importance of that. However, it does not have to be an interim, but it can be as a fractional. We provide fractional, and part of our investment into the company includes our fee for providing that. And why is that? I've been a CFO as well as a CEO most of my career and know the importance of everything that Edward just talked about. The CFO is not just accounting, that's the controller. The CFO has the controller under him or her, and then also has HR, also has IT, also has facilities, also has security, those issues. And if they're not dealt with, you can imagine what can happen. Even if it is only a person working in their home office, the possibility of breach of security on this very important data, I would go into even the patent side of things, that's also in the office of the CFO. So again, I emphasize the importance of what Edward said, but said it could tell you it doesn't have to be expensive to start with. It can be fractionalized. Thank you.
All right, fantastic, Jack. So turning it over to our entrepreneurs. Do you have a CFO or an accountant, or how are you addressing financial leadership in your business today?
Yeah, so we have used fractional CFOs, also had a controller internal to the company, and we're actually about to bring on a CFO. That's our next hire that we've been, So, but yeah, I mean, we as a small company, we're a tiny company, really just wearing so many different hats, right? As a CEO, between operations, business development. It's definitely critical to get that support, hopefully as soon as possible. Yeah.
Okay, George, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, from day one, our COO, as he has the background of economics and financing and accounting, he was doing the CFO tasks, as we are also a small early stage startup. I mean, we are looking forward after our next raise to have a full-time CFO in the company. Currently, it's being done by our COO.
Okay, so we're living in the era of truly the lean biotech startup. So love hearing that, and love to hear that. I think all of you in the audience today have heard hopefully the foundational makings of these successful companies. What did we say? 30% companies who employ financial leadership have a 30% higher productivity and success rate. So that's amazing. So before we close out here, I wanted to give this not only an opportunity for me to get to know some of the industry's best minds on the financing and entrepreneur side, but I also want you guys to be engaged here, and feel free to open it up for questions now. So I think we've got about 5-10 minutes left here where we can take questions from the audience, both here and online.
Good morning, everyone, and I'm assuming good evening to those who are on the other side. So I want to just go back to a question that Julio you had asked earlier on, and the panel's answer was that it is the best time to make any investment because really it is also the lowest valuation you can ever get in a very long time. But at the same time, from the perspective of a founder, if a valuation that is an 80% haircut makes forecasting into the future much harder. So perhaps while it might be the best case scenario, what advice would you have to funders to probably be a little bit more generous, knowing that we're not necessarily going to use an exit in the next 2 years as a potential thing, but rather look at it from a different perspective. So that's probably a question more for the funders or folks who are adjacent to the funders.
Okay, thank you, Abu. Let's take that one.
It is working. I'll hold it to my mouth. It'll be better. That's good sound, isn't it? Okay. Valuation issues are relative to the times in which they're being valued. I come out of the real estate development industry of several buildings in San Francisco and on the peninsula we built, and it was all about bringing in borrowed money at that time, which valuation had a lot to do with. And by the way, the valuation of the buildings now compared to when we built them, I wish I had kept some of the buildings. I mean, they're astounding. Although less now, but 50% valuation today from what it was is still fine with me. Likewise, the same is true in the life science industry. When you are going through the FDA approval step, not the early commercialization, which we have here in McKinley. In that case, what you're saying is we're doing this because it's going to first solve a problem for patients. And everybody who is doing it in our portfolio is doing it primarily for that reason. They tend to have been professors with labs and so forth, and finally got out and were able to do it. But behind that is also to go home to the significant other and say, see, it was worth it, baby. I guess so. And what are those valuations when that happens? And all of us have been through that who have been entrepreneurs. The valuations are then based upon very simple metrics. When I was a management consultant for a while, we had the 4 M's. First is market. Well, that's the first question to ask is, what's the market for this cancer drug? What's the market for this anti-germaceutical? That's the first thing. Next is let's see if I can go through them. The important one is the last one is money. Okay, that's how you get there. First is the market. What penetration do you guess, Mr. Entrepreneur, Mrs. Entrepreneur, of that market? Once you have that, you have the revenue number, and then what are your costs of goods sold, which in pharmaceuticals are relatively low. And then from that, you multiply that number times 10. Why? That's the standard. There's nothing more. It's that simple to do a valuation. Now, my friends in the accounting industry have certified valuation certificates. That's good too. I'm not going to take away from that. But it's more sophisticated than the average investor really needs to know. Our valuation of our 13 companies, are you ready, is $333 billion on a $250 million investment. No, they're not all going to succeed. Okay. No, it's not really going to happen. No, it's not even going to be that on each individual company, but it doesn't make any difference because the multipliers are so great because of the big pharma influence that it's no problem to go to the licensing, which is normally how it happens. You don't even need to sell your company, you just sell the license to the product. Thank you. That was one of the questions on my list, so I prepared for it. Thank you.
Great. Any from the entrepreneur side? How does it feel to get that haircut, I think is what the original question was asking.
Yeah, and and one thing which I don't have the numbers handy, maybe you do, but I think acquisitions are potentially up right now, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there's two sides to this, right? Venture capital is down, acquisitions are actually up. I think ultimately, though, as a founder, what's most important to me with investors is that there's alignment for the culture that I'm building, and that, when you bring on an investor, they really do become a really big part of the company and the team. So, I think when it comes to, percentages and, maybe giving up a little bit more because you need to be realistic during phases like this, I think it's, it's sometimes potentially a necessity. But what I would say is, for me, what is my primary concern is making sure that I have alignment with our financial investors, and that, they will really support and help the growth of our company and our goals. Yeah.
Thanks, Macklin. I'll chime in here. Just helping coach a lot of our startups, I think Jack hit it on the head, which is the number one customer here is the patient. And I can't tell you how much it saddened me, and I don't care what year it is. This could have been in 2014 when we first started, or it could be in 2023 now. Valuations have always been, this issue from the scientist side, where I think and I'm a scientist too, so I can say this, where I think we have a little bit too much of a control problem that we need to let go of, because if we don't, right, many hands help lighten loads, right? And so I think one of the things we need to think about is the worst valuation is zero. It's when we have an idea that could potentially cure cancer, cure neurological diseases, build more sustainable environments for us that never get off the ground because someone was worried about whether or not the valuation on their first round was the right one. I think at the end of the day, you know, the funders are out there to become a partner, not to necessarily be you know, parasitic. And you know, yes, there are some out there, but as a community, we should help vet that out. But but in general, you know, 99% of investors out there are there to help get these amazing miracles into the market. And just remember a couple of things, right? One of the first things is you're raising a round for some of the company, not all of the company. So if you are doing some of the things that we talked about here from best practice perspective, you're thinking and building strong foundations in the beginning. You're engaging your scientific and business teams and setting realistic goals and objectives to attain, and you're employing best practices in terms of financial leadership early on. Those things we've been talking about this morning, that will help you get to the next round of funding where you will have proven, instead of from an arbitrary basis, but from a leadership perspective, that the valuation of the company is deserved. And you have a comment on that, Jack?
Yes. Really important, and there's a conflict in it though. Many investors will come in and say, if you have only one product, you don't have a company, you have a product. What happens then is immediately the entrepreneur says, but I have other products. Now there's a commitment that person has to these other products, and that's that distraction you're talking about. Go back to your benchmarks, right? The first thing we're going to do is take this blockbuster. We don't know which one it is yet, but it's looking like it's going to be this one. We'll develop that one and get that into licensing, and then keep the company, let the license go ahead with the big pharma. And that's our model. And then at that point, pick up the next one and the next one. Now you've fulfilled your commitment to your investor, and at the same time kept focused.
Yeah, great point there. And I'll get into the weeds a little bit more for some of those who are even earlier stage. So here at HomeLab, we deal with pre-seed companies. Sometimes the team's not even formed, and as they're building their companies, they're thinking about the technology and thinking about, do they build it, do they license it? They're often encountering the spectrum of the funders in our ecosystem, from the venture studio model on up to the larger funds out there who take more of a traditional type of a route and investment cycle. And what we often tell those scientists is, you can have multiple products, right? And there may be one product, for example, if you're a postdoc, there may be one product or use case or indication that you'll never touch. So you're working on something that could be a therapeutic, but it could also become a medical device or diagnostic, right? You really believe in a platform that you have. One of the things you can do is work with one of those venture studios, convince them that this is the best thing and that medical device or diagnostic market's a great one for them to get into, license it to them. Now you have a couple $1 million. It's another way of getting revenue that you can now funnel into what you really want to work on, right, in another area that's non-competitive. And so that's a great strategy that we try and have postdocs deploy. Not only does it feed money into the business, but it also helps them become a known commodity, meaning now they have some success under their belt, and it makes future fundraising that much easier for them. So just an example, getting into weeds here, but just an example of the different kinds of strategies entrepreneurs can provide at the different stages that they might be thinking about building a company, exiting, licensing, and so forth. So, all right, Abu, great question. You stimulated a lot of interest and engagement here. Any more from the audience?
Hi, I just have a question about the tax credits. How long does the business have to be going before you can claim those? Day one. Okay.
Startups are doing that's spending. Yeah. So day one, before you file your first tax return, you actually have to claim the credit on the return, and then you can claim it in the subsequent quarter against your payroll tax, up to $500,000, right? A couple years ago, it was $250,000, and now it's $500,000. So yeah, just as long as you do not have any revenue, it has to be pre-revenue in order to qualify. I think the revenue threshold is, I think it's like $5 million, but I think even interest income counts towards revenue. So make sure that, hey, if you don't have any revenue or interest income, you can apply for these credits.
Okay, looks like we're going to wrap it up here. Again, please give me a big hand and thank you to our panelists here today.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you, and also to including George. And thank you for our pitch companies, including Phil Norris. Now, I think we have the video that we weren't able to show before. So I will hand it back, and we'll see that. Excellent. Thank you for that.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Matt.
So thank you, George. Thank you for that, and thank you for all our participants. And special thanks to Matt Hausherr, who is, as chairman of the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce, is also an AV tech and has done a fabulous job of coordinating all our technology. So thank you.
Thank you very much for the merits, John. I try to do my best here.
And thank you all for joining us. And I know the traffic was horrendous for folks coming down from the north, so thank you for your persistence. And now I think we will have a networking event. That's it, correct?
Yes. So we have for everyone. I thought I'm very clever in doing it like that, but I wasn't that clever yet. So we gladly invite you. We have coffee and bagels, so hang a little bit around for networking right now, but I also want to just quickly use a couple seconds. So this kind of opportunity meetup we do more or less every month in the different kind of markets and disciplines, right, that I was mentioning before. But I also want to highlight here everything that we do, we do for a reason, right? We really want to kind of facilitate and enable companies that make an impact in each other's ecosystems and market. And to kind of celebrate that impact and recognize those companies that actually kind of outperformed, we created the Swiss AmCham Avant-Garde Award, which is an award that is given to a Swiss enterprise in the US that actually has proven to really have a socio-economic and from an innovation perspective, from also commercial perspective, a huge footprint in the market. So we have every year a gala in Los Angeles. The last one was just a couple weeks ago, where we award that company in a very kind of nice environment. So I also encourage, right, companies that we have heard about today, right, to kind of apply and be part maybe of the next or the next after next cohort to participate in that competition. Now, having said that, we as a Chamber of Commerce, we live from our networks, we live also from our members. So if you like what you have heard today, and if you even like more with the people and the new contacts and relationships that you're going to make later on, please join us, come into our organization as a member. We currently have a special for just $89 for a full year. You actually can enjoy the pleasure of events like that, of also events that are more on the socializing side. We do events together with friendly other chambers, like with the Italian Chamber of Commerce, with the British Chamber of Commerce. So really we want to drive kind of the interaction in these different kind of networks that are interested into international but also growth companies and businesses in Southern California. So having said that, well, thanks everyone out there. Thanks everyone here for having us. Thanks again, HomeLab. Lovely to be here. Thanks RSM to be a great sponsor and facilitator for today. And thank you for the whole AmCham team that helped today. And hopefully see you next year at the next meetup. Thank you.